What's going on, everyone? It's Sam. Welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the no upload last week, but I'm back at it now. And since there's no MCU projects until June 11th with Loki, let's finally discuss something I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is Armor Wars. This is going to be a two-part video, so this video will be more of what Armor Wars is, and talking about Ironheart connections as well as who could be showing up, and then part 2 will be more connected to the power broker, Sharon and other stuff. Before we start though, if you're new to the channel, or if you just like Marvel, the MCU, comics, and everything in between, subscribe and leave a like if you enjoy. Other than that, let's get into the video. Let's go. So out of all the projects, Armor Wars is one that I'm extremely excited about, but most people might not be, and understandably because people aren't sure what to expect from the show. Armor Wars is going to feature Don Cheadle as War Machine, and it's expected to come out in 2022. The show is based on the comic adaptation for when Tony Stark's biggest fear happens. His tech that he created is in the wrong hands with his enemies. Now obviously in the MCU, Tony Stark is currently dead, and we all know that the series will take place after Endgame because Don Cheadle spoke about how Tony Stark's death will be an important factor in the show. And so obviously we're presumed to believe that Rhodey will be carrying on the legacy of Tony by correcting the world of his stolen tech. Now in the comics there's two versions of the Armor Wars storyline, one from the late 1980s and one recently published in 2015. The 2015 one ties more into the development of Secret Wars, and while we may be leading there in the future, they may go that route, but the original version seems more likely for right now. So what happened? In that 1980s version, Tony ultimately finds out that Justin Hammer was selling his armor plans and technology, and so when Tony does find this out, he sets out to make sure that no harm will be caused of the weapons that he's created, and therefore the Armor Wars begin. However, there was one issue, and it was that Tony accused some people of stealing his tech, but actually they had just made their own version of the armor, and it's exactly what I could see happening in the MCU's version with Rhodey. Being that Rhodey will be in desperation to try to find out who's doing this, I think this same storyline is what we're going to see, and I also think that's how Ironheart debuts in the MCU. Pulled directly from the Ironheart debut, Riri Williams is a 15-year-old engineer student at MIT University. Now what started out as a challenge for herself, and it was a secret project, she wanted to create a suit of armor for herself. So after reverse engineering technology from the Iron Man suit Mark 41, Riri started creating her own prototype version of the Iron Man armor using mainly stolen material from her college campus. Soon after, security caught notice of what she was doing, and Riri decided to take the suit and fly away with it so she wasn't caught. Later down the road, Riri's armor becomes damaged and she goes back to her aunt's house because both of her parents unfortunately did die. She continues to work on her suit until Tony Stark hears of her accomplishments and goes to meet her. He decides to endorse her as a superhero, and from there Ironheart is created. Within the MCU's version, I believe that we're currently presumed to think that Armor Wars will come first, and if that's the case, Rhodey may be the one who stumbles upon her or hears that someone has created an alternate suit. And similar to the comics but told differently in the MCU, he'll quickly realize that technology wasn't stolen, but rather created, and the idea of Riri and Rhodey carrying the mantle will go hand in hand. This is how I think we're going to meet Riri, and ultimately this is how her own show will start to take place, with her becoming a hero of her own. Of course, the projects may be reversed, but that's the general idea of what to expect from Riri Williams' MCU debut. Now back to the topic of what the actual Armor Wars will be about. I know everyone's first thought is now going to be about Sharon Carter, considering her twist within the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That entire idea is what part 2 of this video will be about, so hold on to that idea, but today rather we're going to talk about who else may be intertwined within the Armor Wars story, and a couple of names immediately pop into my mind: Justin Hammer and Tyler Hayward. There have been rumors of a Justin Hammer return, and even Daniel RPK has also stated that Sam Rockwell was apparently in talks to return in the Armor Wars show. This would be a no-brainer, and honestly this could also be who Sharon Carter is talking to on that phone in the post-credit scene. Justin Hammer started and has currently only shown up in Iron Man 2, and he was partially a big tie-in for Rhodey in that movie. He was the propaganda for Hammer's presentation, and he was also giving him Hammer technology weapons, or should I just say duds at that point.
Hammer tech?
Yeah. So it would make a lot of sense for Hammer to return, as he plays a big role in the comic story of Armor Wars. And he's technically still alive in the MCU. When we last saw him in Iron Man 2, he gets arrested, and really that's it. So who knows where he went next, and essentially, him and Vanko were starting their own Armor Wars, taking Tony's tech and trying to turn it into weapons or AI sentient robots. which does sound a lot familiar with what Tyler Hayward tried doing in WandaVision with Vision. So this is my theory for how other things tie into Armor Wars, but it's unclear if former S.W.O.R.D. director Tyler Hayward will appear again. But once again, anyone who we don't see die in the MCU is still alive in the MCU, shout out to Steve Rogers on the moon, and if they did die, Gamora falling, then they could always return, so at any moment, anyone can return. That's Marvel and Marvel Comics for you. But in the MCU, it would have to serve for a larger purpose, and as we have seen, Marvel does seem very content with bringing back characters to use them in a completely different way of storytelling. And so for Hammer at this point, why not connect him to the larger universe? I think he would maybe love to know just how Vision's old body was rebooted. We last see Spectral or White Vision say "I am Vision" and then fly away, and we haven't seen him since. Currently, there's no clue as to where he went, but it's possible he'll make an appearance in this show, or at least the information needed for how Hayward was able to bring back Vision's body, and Hammer could be after that. After all, instead of the Mind Stone, it coincidentally looks like White Vision is being powered by what looks to be an arc reactor, or at least the design of one. So of course, with the help of Wanda's hex power, that's how Vision came back, but nevertheless, it's still a coincidence. Even the actor who played Tyler Hayward in the MCU, Josh Stamberg, said he would be surprised to not be returning in the MCU at some point. Not only that, but he is a pretty prominent actor, and so I would be kinda shocked to not see him return also, considering he basically got the same Justin Hammer treatment. Two guys who wanted to make sentient beings, they were thrown in jail, and the left is rest of history. So we'll see if they return someday, and Armor Wars could just be that series. So be on the lookout for part 2 of this video. I'm currently editing it now. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below, and if you're hyped for the Armor Wars storyline in general, and the Ironheart series as well. If you have any video requests, also comment down below, but feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at @AnotherMarvelG. You can keep up to date with all of my announcements, and keep up to date with my content on there as well. All links to my socials are below, including where you can find the podcast, and make sure you're subscribed with the notification bells on so you don't miss any new videos. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. I'm Another Marvel Guy, and I'll catch y'all on the blip.